Picture this. You're at home taking a well-deserved rest after surviving 10 nights at Freddy's when suddenly your phone rings. You pick it up and it's your dead dad. He goes, "Yo son, there's this new place that showed up on the radar, Fazbear Frights. You need to check this out ASAP. It's the bomb." So you hang up the phone, put on your uniform, and head to the new restaurant. However, once you get there, you realize you've been trapped, and now you must survive 5 more nights at Freddy's. That's kind of the plot of FNAF 3 in some way. But this is considering the current timeline with all our expert FNAF knowledge. So what was the game like when it first came out in March 2nd of 2015? Today, we're going to be looking into Five Nights at Freddy's 3, my personal least favorite from the original FNAF games. I never felt too connected or invested with this one, so perhaps a fresh look 10 years later will help shake things up a bit. And yes, I did say 10 years later. Today, I'm going to analyze FNAF 3, check how the game holds up, and see if it's as bad as I remember. Most of the footage you see will be linked in the description below. Unfortunately, there was no skip option this time around, so gathering footage was much harder. With that said, let's start with the This time, we open up with a newspaper clipping detailing Fazbear Frights, a horror attraction themed around the unsolved mysteries of Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria. You volunteer as the night guard, where on your first night, a different phone guy tells you the backstory behind this establishment. While you spend a whole night getting adjusted to the new area, you tend to notice how unregulated this place seems. On night 2, new phone guy says that he found a bunch of vintage stuff, including old cassette tapes dating back all the way to the first Freddy's location. However, as the night goes smoothly, he lets you know that he found one, a real one. As he rushes to leave, he lets you know that it should be somewhere in the building, don't worry about it. So you check cams out of curiosity, and there it is. While lurking deep in the shadows, you see him, Springtrap. He attempts to slowly get into your office, but luckily you're able to lure him away using audio cues. While some faulty equipment starts to fail and repairs are being made, hallucinations of worn down animatronics start to randomly appear. By somehow keeping your sanity together, you're able to stay on guard and survive the night. In the following nights 3 to 5, Old Phone Guy explains the system of spring-lock suits. He explains how they were used to work as both suits and animatronics. However, the system is extremely dangerous to use against moisture. After an incident at a sister's location involving the suits, they were eventually retired and moved into a new location. The suits now reside inside of a secret safe room that's unknown to most Fazbear employees. During this time, Springtrap becomes much more aggressive, while the faulty equipment starts to get even worse. At the end of each night, you play a minigame where you wander around the original FNAF Pizzeria as the main 4 animatronics. You follow a shadow Freddy who lures you into a room that you can't enter. In an attempt to turn back, Purple Guy attacks and dismantles you guys one by one. After the 5th night, the souls trapped within the animatronics start to take over. They fight back against Purple Guy, who's shocked to actually see that they're all alive. In a desperate attempt to save himself, he jumps into the Springlock Bonnie suit. However, it was in this moment of desperation that Purple Guy failed to notice the rain. With a really wet and damp atmosphere in the room, the Springlock started to crunch on him, one by one. Purple Guy laid on the floor helpless, possibly for days, as the spirits of the dead kids watch him getting Springlocked alive. The game ends with what's called the bad ending, where the spirit of the dead kids still remain restless. Throughout the game, there are multiple secret clues hidden within the minigames. Using these hints, you can interact with elements of the real world to be transferred into another set of minigames that detail the events all the way back from the first Freddy's up to now. While they could be played normally, if you glitch out of the level in really specific ways, you'll end up finding a crying kid. Giving the crying kid a cake over the course of the next couple of nights unlocks the Happiest Day minigame, a reimagining of a child's birthday. As they celebrate one final time, their souls disappear, leaving only their mask. The good ending gets achieved, as Fazbear Frights burns down for good. This game presents a lot more lore-heavy elements, probably more than the other 2 games combined, so here's my interpretation of the story from the perspective of 2015. Way back in the first Freddy's Family Diner, there were 2 suits. One Freddy suit and one Bonnie suit, with both working by the use of spring locks. However, after an incident of one of the suits and a murder of a girl outside who later became the puppet, the place got shut down. They reopen a second time as Fazbear Family Diner. Purple Guy, our main killer here, who has claimed at least 1 victim so far, uses the yellow bunny suit to lure 5 kids into the back. He kills them and stuffs their bodies inside the 4 suits, including the yellow Freddy from the first location. With the new place shutting down again, they open a new restaurant, which is the FNAF 2 location. Here, the animatronics have facial recognitions to prevent another set of murders from happening, but this still isn't enough to stop Purple Guy, who murders another set of 5 kids. The place is forced to shut down, and they open one final time as FNAF 1. During this time, Purple Guy learned about the animatronics coming to life, so both curious and terrified, he used the hidden safe rooms to lower all the animatronics and dismantle them one by one. What he didn't expect was that the soul of the dead kids would still be able to move without a suit. In a panicked state, he wore the yellow Bonnie suit, which spring locked on him. With the safe rooms being sealed shut, Purple Guy was left to rot. That was until years later, some idiot wanted to open a horror-themed attraction about these murders. To make the place more authentic, he used materials gathered from the original Freddy locations, which led to the discovery of these safe rooms. Purple Guy, left dead for possibly years, has become one with his suit. Now known as Springtrap, he's brought into Fazbear Frights, where our main protagonist, who most likely knows what's going on, is here to settle the score once and for all. After releasing the souls of the dead kids by giving back their one day which was stolen from them, he sets the place on fire in an attempt to kill Springtrap. This was the end of the original Five Nights at Freddy's. Or at least something like that. I mean, there's still like a couple of holes in the theory of the timeline, but this is like the closest thing to a perfect timeline I can think about with the context of FNAF 1, 2, and 3. Just like with FNAF 3, this game builds on top of what's already been established by adding more depth to the lore, and I love the way FNAF 3 pulled it off. The way in which the story is presented feels so coherent, a definite upgrade compared to the other 2 games. I will admit though, the existence of 2 endings does make things a little confusing, especially canonically wise when it comes to deciding which ending is true, but it does make sense for a good ending to be the actual true ending here, especially considering how this was originally the last FNAF game. Phone Guy returning his old cassette tapes is actually a really cool idea, and it's probably my favorite iteration of him from the 3 games, since I like how he's actually used here to explain like really subtle plot devices. The horror atmosphere this time around is really well captured here, and in the story no less. It feels like by this point of the franchise, Scott started to have a clear idea as to where he wanted to take the series. Showing off the unexpected backstory to characters like Shadow Freddy and Bonnie, seeing them glitch out as creepy music box starts playing in the background. It all gives off this really great horror vibe. And like I said before, I really like the way the story is laid out here. Honestly, it feels much more coherent than any other entry so far, and the endings actually feel conclusive compared to other games like FNAF 4. Finally, giving a backstory to one of the most infamous characters of the series and turning them into an animatronic you could fight is a sick idea that's really well pulled off. I also like the idea of how the whole game is essentially just a 1v1, you against Springtrap, yet that actually doesn't take away from how difficult it could get. The Happiest Day minigame followed by releasing the souls of the dead kids, it's such a somber scene to see, but one that feels so climactic at the same time. I love how the game ends with setting the whole place ablaze, which really gives this finale feel to it, that everything is finally, the story of Freddy is now over, thank God. All this to say that I think I was actually tripping back then when I said that I didn't like this game and it wasn't really interesting to me. Looking back at it now, even by just the story alone, it actually stands out not just as the best game in the way it presents the story, but also the best story from the first 3 games. FNAF 3 definitely has the most unique gameplay from the bunch. In this game, you can only die to one animatronic, Springtrap. But don't let this fool you into thinking you can easily beat FNAF 3. While only one animatronic can kill you, there are a ton of things in this game that'll make sure he gets into your office. Each night offers more challenge with new animatronics getting added to the mix, increased aggression, and even more errors. Night 1 offers no real challenge, which is nice to see since you're actually able to get adjusted to your new environment, which is completely necessary. In the main office, you have 2 things you could check, those being cameras on the right and repairs on the left. You can use cams to check on Springtrap and use the built-in audio system to lure him away. There are also vents you need to be aware of since he can enter those. You could seal the vents to keep him out, but only one at a time. While on cams, potential issues could arise, like audio or visual errors. These errors can be caused over a long period of time or triggered by a phantom animatronic. That's when you need to divert your attention to the repair side of things, where you could either fix the issue you need one at a time or all at once. However, be careful when you make repairs since they could take quite some time, leaving you pretty defenseless, so make sure to plan them out. Which honestly, on paper, it doesn't seem like that much to take care of. And as a kid, I used to think concept-wise that this game sounds the easiest, but I would be lying to say if it wasn't pretty difficult. It's definitely hard, not as crazy as the first or chaotic as the second, but it's still hard. I love how half the time you actually feel so helpless. During FNAF 1 or 2, you were at least in a somewhat position where you could control what happens, when and where and how and why, but in this game, you're sort of just stuck at the mercy of Fazbear Frights. It's definitely something I wasn't a fan of back then, but looking at it now, I actually think it's really cool. For example, when you go to the repair section and you need to repair something, you're kind of left defenseless there. You just gotta wait till the repair is done and then hope nothing happens. I also like how Scott included the vent system to prevent stalling Springtrap from far away. Sort of like how he worked around the mask trick by using Foxy and the puppet, so the player just doesn't have the mask on at all times. I really like when game developers work around a system in intriguing ways rather than just cutting it out entirely. After each night, you're presented with a minigame. They feel sluggish to control, but it's honestly nothing too bad. All the other secret minigames, however, just look confusing and difficult to pull off. It's almost impossible to get the true ending without any guides. I'm honestly still surprised to see how people were able to piece these clues in just a matter of days, which helps reinforce my idea that part of the fun with the fandom is actually putting the clues together. The gameplay for FNAF 3 is actually much better than I remember. Sure, it still has quirky RNG bullshit, but it's not a FNAF game without some quirky RNG bullshit. It's also really scary at times how defenseless you could be gameplay wise, which shows how Scott was able to pull the horror atmosphere this game around really well. I wholeheartedly came to this thinking that the soundtrack wasn't going to be much to talk about, but wow was I wrong. At this point, you're well aware that FNAF isn't a series known for its soundtrack, but damn, I would be lying if I didn't say I like the songs that he used in FNAF 3 a lot. The menu theme this time around is actually my least favorite from the series, and the office theme isn't anything special. However, each minigame has its own music box track accompanying it, with some being just so good. I really like the good ending theme, for example, and the bad ending theme too. They just sound really good. All the songs used here have this somber, depressing tone to them. The sad feeling each carry is honestly really well tied back to the theme of the game itself and the atmosphere, with my personal favorite from the bunch being the one used for Bonnie. I think it's called Bonnie's Lullaby. There's also the return of environmental cues, plus some audio design that I actually find pretty nice, like the sound effect that plays at the beginning of each night. There are also audio cues for when Springtrap moves and shifts around between the vents, which, if I'm being honest, when I played the game I actually never heard any of this at all, but it sounds believable and Ramon says it's there, so I trust him. Something really interesting to me that Scruffy mentioned in one of his videos is the reuse of Balloon Boy's audio. In FNAF 2, his creepy ha-ha-has and hellos were used to alert the player, mostly for some shock value too. This time around, however, they're used to aid the player and help him thwart the main villain away, which is a small detail I actually never bothered to notice but found really interesting when it was pointed out to me. Looking back at it now, FNAF 3 probably has the best soundtrack from the 3 games. I'm not sure if I would say it has the best audio design, but the heavy use of the music box themes that can both put you to sleep and shit your pants to is pulled off pretty great this time around. The visual style is pretty much the same as FNAF 1 and 2, but if I'm being honest, there's something about this game that feels so unique to it and I just can't shake this off. I think it's possibly the green atmosphere it has. I can't pinpoint exactly what it is, but something about this game just feels so horror-like. Sitting in an office feels so much eerie this time around, with this feeling of strange dread in the air. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Outside of the game's atmosphere, it's mostly just pixelated messes and 3D models of animatronics with GIFs for jump scares. The 8-bit minigame looks really solid here, and honestly, I think Scott might have peaked here with how they look, because for being an Atari-inspired retro design, it looks so clean. The minigames got a much-deserved glow-up from the second game, which captures the vibe they were going for really well. The other minigames also look cool, with most of them just looking like a creepypasta, but nothing much else to talk about. Fun fact, this part of the video has actually become Editor's Camilo least favorite part to work on. At first, I thought that the tier list idea would be cool to talk about, but after a while, it became too many characters with too much to talk about, too little, too time, just stupid. Which is why this time around, I'm going to rapid fire through the tier list, only mentioning the designs I either like or don't. Springtrap is the definition of a perfect FNAF character. He looks creepy as f***, has metal parts with human flesh sticking out, and fits the environment for the game extremely well. I often seen Springtrap used to represent the series instead of Freddy, and honestly, I could see why. For being such an important character to the lore, Scott made his design justice. S tier. On the other hand, Phantom Balloon Boy D, Phantom Freddy D, Phantom Mangle D, Phantom Foxy B, Phantom Chica F, and Phantom Puppet D. Most of the Phantoms look like they're withered versions with a neon green filter and unanswered burn marks on them, which looks scary at first but gets old pretty quick. On the jump scare side of things, I'd like to discuss Springtrap first. While he isn't anything scary like in the other games where they jump right at you, this one feels different. In the context of the lore, this is all hypothetical by the way, so please don't get on my ass. Michael Afton, Springtrap's son, is taking up the night guard position. As Springtrap finally approaches the office, he sees his son for the first time in years. He takes a moment to pause, and rather than attack his son, he takes a good look at him before knocking him out. This interaction between the player character and Springtrap feels so somber yet oddly poetic. It's not scary because it's not supposed to be scary. It's more of a, oh shit, my son is now tied into this moment, which honestly, this interaction alone makes the jump scare S tier. Is what I would have said if Scott planned this from the start, which honestly, I really doubt it. I still think FNAF 4's Dream Theory makes the more sense lore-wise, which pretty much invalidates everything I just said about Springtrap's jump scare story, but that's something we haven't gotten to yet. As a jump scare alone, it's not scary, but I like how it's pulled off since it's not like, you know, Springtrap's an actual human stuck inside of a suit, so he can't really jump at you, and he acts more human-like than the other animatronics, so it does set him out. I'm going off script right now, but I think you get what I mean. All this to say, I think B tier is appropriate for both jump scares since I actually can't pick a favorite one. I think both are pretty cool. And with that said, Phantom Chica D, Phantom Balloon Boy B, Phantom Foxy A, surprisingly, Phantom Freddy D, Phantom Angle D, and Phantom Puppet D, for pretty much the same reasons I just talked about before. It's hard to make a good jump scare for characters that don't have good designs, or at least some that I'm not interested in. Now notice how I said I don't like working on this part of the video, yet it somehow ended up being longer than just the other parts? Crazy how that happens, huh? FNAF 3 has one perfect character design, but the rest plus the jump scares aren't really much to glance at twice. The visuals stay pretty similar to the other games, but improve on in so many areas, with the atmosphere being something I wasn't actually expecting to like so much my second time around. Something I didn't talk about until now was Night 6 and 7, which Night 6 and 7 is usually like the extra super hard night that's pretty common in all the FNAF games, but I never mentioned it this time around because there is no real Night 6 or 7, kind of. After beating the game, there's an aggressive mode you could try out, which makes the game harder, which sort of substitutes for Night 6 and 7, because I also think that's how you get the everything burns ending, but I don't know. You could also get some extra menu options. This includes animatronics, minigames, jump scares, and cheats. There are a couple of rare Springtrap images that could show up while playing the game, 3 of them to be specific. They're each so peak, absolutely raw. I love how they were also used later by theorists to enforce the idea that Afton is Springtrap being part of the lore. It's a really cool rare screen to see, and I just love how it looks. Especially this one, it looks like he's trying to like rip his mask off, trying to escape the Springtrap suit. There are also a bunch of Easter eggs hidden throughout the map, which I won't point all of them out, but there are some nice callbacks to the other FNAF games. There's not a lot much more for me to say this time around, so comment below if there's any FNAF 3 Easter eggs you like, and subscribe to the channel while you're at it. My favorite Easter egg is this creepy Freddy hiding from the corner. I think he looks pretty cool. Out of all the FNAF games until Help Wanted, I used to feel least connected with FNAF 3. Probably even after Help Wanted, I feel less connected this 3, considering like main timeline FNAF games, because you know, if you consider something like Freddy in Space, I never really played that one, so I don't feel that connected to it, but you get what I mean. I hope. If you don't, this far into the series, I think I look crazy. I don't know what it is about this game, but something just never clicked to me. I first learned about FNAF 3 from my cousin while hanging out, and I think it was on the last day he was visiting over during a family dinner. He had this Kindle tablet on him, or maybe it was an iPad. Either way, he was showing off the latest in the FNAF series, FNAF 3. I remember how he made such a huge deal to clarify that the game had this realistic breathing to it when you got fake jump scared, and I also found the fake jump scares to be like a really cool mechanic and part. But obviously, I watched a couple of game theories and let's plays afterwards, but never really felt so connected to it. I didn't really give it a second chance or just cared about it afterwards. I still like the game though, and I always felt like it was a solid addition to the series, with the most ending-like ending when compared to other games like FNAF 4. But looking back at it now, FNAF 3 is much better than I gave it credit for, and I feel much more appreciative of the game now for what it did to the series. I don't really get why I just never liked this game as a kid, but I would be lying if I didn't say I love FNAF 3 now. Oh, and it also gave us Springtrap, which is amazing. I love his inclusion to the series a lot. He's a fantastic character. I think it goes without saying at this point that FNAF 3 does not hold up 10 years later. But I will admit, it was a little bit harder for me to decide this than with the other two games. Like, I'm aware this game would not hold up in today's standards, but something about it tells me that it possibly could. The gameplay is really repetitive and difficult, the visuals aren't anything to note about, and the soundtrack isn't that great either. But on the other side of things, the gameplay doesn't need to be worked on because of its genre. The visuals are filled with loads of charm with a perfect atmosphere for the game. And the soundtrack borrows a lot of somber music box themes for its heavy-hitting moments. The story this time around is much more coherent than the other two games, with the ending feeling pretty conclusive to the series overall. I feel like if FNAF 3 ended at its third game and left it there, it wouldn't be a bad note to leave the series on. The game did take its time after all to come out, but it feels much more fleshed out than the other two, so that makes sense. While it won't survive 10 years later, it's still a really fun title to revisit even today. FNAF 3 is a game I came in with a harsh outlook on, but came out with a more positive impression of the game. Revisiting the game today, it looks better than I remember, and it's still an enjoyable title to play. The game offers a rich atmosphere, interesting addition to the series, and a far more conclusive story. Even today, FNAF 3 is a great game that would have been a great conclusion to the FNAF series that's still scary to play 10 years later. Hey, check this out. I made a website, teamsickum.com. You can check out the website right now. It's live. I made it for my game making company, Team Sickum. We make games. We're creating a game. Check it out. I upload blogs on there about my game progression. We're working on a game right now, Project Karma. Check it out, please. I would love if you check out teamsickum.com. I worked so hard on this. Please check it out. Thank you so much for watching. I'm so sorry for the 2-month delay. Between then, I've been busy on finishing the Wii U video and my college finals. Which, speaking of, thank you so much for 70,000 views and 2,000 subscribers. I actually never thought I would make it this far so soon, and I appreciate every single one of you guys. And also, on a completely unrelated side note, I've actually started to play One Shot recently. I finished both routes of the game and I really loved everything about it. I think the story is amazing, the art style is really cute, and I just really like the game. I'm also working on pretty big stuff in the background, some videos that are going to come out a couple months from now, but they're going to be big, long projects that I trust you. They're going to be very fun to watch and entertaining. Join the Discord if you haven't already. I have these socials right here you could follow. And make sure to check teamsickum.com. That's the website I use for my game making company, Team Sickum. Check it out. We make games. And we're cool. Trust me. I hope you enjoyed the video and look forward to more 10 years later video, plus whatever the hell I post nowadays. Subscribe if you enjoyed, and look out for FNAF 4 10 years later.